I record this entry for the Grand Archive of the Constellation Fleet, though I suspect it will bore even the most desperate scholars of xenobiology. The assignment itself is insulting. Observe a young and fumbling species that has scarcely crawled from its mud pits. They call themselves humans. Bipedal, carbon-based, prone to spontaneous violence, obsessive consumption, and, strangest of all, worship of flashing light screens that broadcast something they term reality television. Imagine, if you will, an entire planetary culture hypnotized by mediocre mating rituals and orchestrated conflict. We debated whether the screens were a primitive form of mass control weapon, but no, it appears they are voluntary. That, I think, tells you everything. Still, orders are orders. Our mission: retrieve a live specimen for close study. Simple work. Below us spins a world addicted to something called hamburgers, sugar water in cans, and the worship of symbolic icons called emojis. The more I observed, the more I concluded the galaxy had overestimated this species. They are amusing, yes. Dangerous? Hardly. Their primary achievement, as far as I can tell, is the invention of the microwave burrito, which they consume despite knowing it scalds the mouth in uneven intervals. Any species willing to endure such agony for such meager reward cannot be trusted with logic. My team, 5 of us in total, operated under no illusions. We would land quietly, take 1 human, and depart before anyone noticed. I admit, I suggested abducting one of their more public figures for entertainment. Perhaps a Florida man, as their datanet so endlessly records. But Command insisted we select an ordinary specimen, one unlikely to create panic or disruption. Disappointing, but fine. And so we located our candidate, a solitary male, perhaps in his mid-30s, positioned beside a small fire near flowing water. He had assembled temporary shelter of cloth and sticks and amused himself with roasted fish. Primitive, predictable, perfect. We descended under camouflage. He did not notice us at first, though one of his companion animals, a 4-legged creature with wet nose and wagging tail, barked furiously at our cloaked forms. I considered vaporizing the beast, but our medic insisted restraint. We silenced the animal with a beam, and then the human turned, half curious. He reached instinctively for an object strapped to his belt, but before he could use it, likely a sharpened rock or projectile tool, we bathed him in paralysis field. His body locked, rigid. His eyes, however, widened, and for a brief instant I saw not fear, but recognition. Perhaps I imagined it. In any case, he toppled neatly onto the ground like a puppet whose strings had been cut. We carried him aboard. Already, I had begun composing my report. Specimen subdued with no resistance. Contrary to local mythology, humans are fragile. Capture achieved with efficiency unworthy of commendation. I intended sarcasm, of course. Truly, what commendation could one receive for snatching prey so docile? He did not cry out, did not struggle. In fact, he looked almost amused as we strapped him to the observation cradle. His eyes followed our every movement, but he blinked rarely, as though determined not to miss a detail. I found it curious, but curiosity is not the same as respect. Inside the vessel, procedures commenced. Our technician calibrated scanners. Our medic prepped the cranial probes. The others debated what behavioral conditioning tests to run first. I, meanwhile, observed the specimen's stillness. Even under paralysis, most creatures twitch, saliva pooling, panic showing in tiny muscular betrayals. This human did none of that. He simply watched us, his gaze calm, unhurried. I reminded myself, animals can mimic awareness. Parrots recite words they cannot comprehend. Primates mimic hand motions without understanding meaning. Surely this was the same. A trick of muscle, not of mind. Still, I confessed to some irritation. His stare unsettled the younger crew, who whispered of disobedience codes. I dismissed them with a wave. He is frozen. He cannot act. He cannot even scratch an itch. He is no more dangerous than your breakfast ration. They laughed dutifully, though without conviction. We began the journey back to orbital station. My thoughts drifted toward what comedic entry I would submit to the fleet's archive. Perhaps I would compare humans to their own creations. What do they call them? Action figures. Plastic idols for children, stiff-limbed and painted with exaggerated muscles. That is what this specimen reminded me of. A toy soldier, posed but powerless. I even considered placing an object in his stiff hand, just for humor. Perhaps one of their curious duct tape rolls. Do you know they use that adhesive for everything? Sealing pipes, repairing vehicles, even as clothing ornament. It defies understanding. Entire civilizations crumble from entropy, and these creatures patch theirs with sticky ribbon. The technician reported all systems normal. Paralysis field stable, sedation levels rising. The human's breathing remained steady, though his eyes still moved with unsettling precision. I watched them track the flickering status lights along the bulkhead. Irritating, like a rat too bold to scurry. I muttered to myself, perhaps these mammals lack the good sense to fear superior beings. No one contradicted me. I turned off the recording then, but I will recount the rest from memory. The human twitched slightly, not enough to alarm, but enough to draw my gaze. His lips parted, though paralysis should have prevented speech. For a moment, I thought he smiled. No, surely not. That would mean no. Impossible. The cradle restraints glowed. The field indicators shone bright. He could not move. He could not think. He could not. Forgive the pause. Even now, I must remind myself of sequence. Yes, he remained restrained. Yes, all readings were correct. But I swear he knew. His gaze met mine, unwavering, deliberate. I felt suddenly as though I were the one strapped down, studied, exposed. An absurd sensation, and yet very real. I turned away first, telling myself I had tasks to complete. Cowardice? No. Efficiency. Still, I entered the first stage of the mission with confidence. We had our specimen. We had proof of capture. Soon we would peel open his primitive mind and expose whatever secrets lingered in the mud of Earth. The galaxy would laugh at the myths of human cunning and ferocity. At last we would file them where they belonged, among the trivial curiosities of failed evolution. That is what I told myself. That is what I believed as we set course for the research station. That is what I wrote in my report's final line. Specimen retrieval accomplished without complication. It was a satisfying end to a trivial task. And yet, when I looked back, his eyes were still open. Watching. Always watching. The chamber was silent when the impossible happened. His eyelids fluttered, not in the small, unconscious way of dreams, but in a purposeful motion. My first assumption was equipment malfunction. I ordered the technician to confirm the paralysis field. Readings, stable. Cradle restraints, intact. Sedation levels, optimal. And yet the human's eyes opened fully, calmly, as though he had merely chosen to end a nap. He did not scream. He did not thrash. He smiled. I have studied many species, from the gill-breathers of Krelith to the crystalline philosophers of Vorth Prime. When first removed from habitat, they all display panic in some form. Gasps, shrieks, desperate thrashing. This man did none of that. His calmness was deliberate, unnerving, as though he had expected to awaken aboard a vessel not of his world. He spoke. Let me be clear. His vocal cords should not have functioned under the paralysis. And yet sound emerged, rough but steady. So, he said, eyes sweeping the chamber, this is what you look like up close. My crew recoiled. The medic dropped an instrument. The technician muttered about contamination. I waved them to silence. A hallucination, perhaps. Sometimes neural firing creates phantom impressions of speech. Yet he continued, each word deliberate. You've got your leader. You got your medic. That one over there is tech support. And you, his eyes locked on me, unblinking. You're the one who thinks he's in charge. I laughed, though the sound emerged harsher than intended. An interesting parlor trick, I said. Mammals are known to mimic patterns. I told myself he was guessing blindly. Coincidence. But the way he watched us, no, studied us, nodded certainty. He shifted his gaze to the ceiling, where the monitoring lenses glittered faintly. 3 cameras. One hidden behind that panel, but its alignment is off by a degree. His lips curled. You should fix that. I felt my stomach coil. There is no reason a human should perceive our surveillance apparatus. Invisible to his spectrum, hidden beneath alloy. Yet his gaze was precise. The technician flushed violet, confirming privately that yes, one camera had been misaligned during installation. I attempted recovery of authority. You will remain still, I ordered, voice rising, and you will answer when commanded. He tilted his head slightly, the smile never leaving. Funny thing, he said, I was awake during the trip up. Couldn't move, sure, but I counted. Every rotation, every vibration in your hull. I got a fair map of this place already. Nonsense. Absurd. And yet my mandibles twitched in unease. The medic whispered, should we increase dosage? I silenced him with a glare, though secretly I wanted to shout yes, drown this specimen in anesthetic. But protocol demanded composure. Primitive bravado, I declared, though my voice betrayed me with a tremor. It cornered Beast Bear's teeth. Nothing more. Still, I found myself stepping back. His eyes tracked the motion. That smile deepened. We attempted the first diagnostic scan, a simple sweep of neural activity. Energy beams laced across his skull. The readings displayed irregular. His brain activity should have resembled chaotic bursts, like lightning in a storm. Instead, patterns emerged, rhythmic, predictive, as though his mind anticipated the probes before they touched. The technician blinked at the console, muttering of faulty calibration. He reset the array. Same results. Impossible, he hissed. It's as if he knows what we're doing before we do it. The man chuckled, low and soft. Don't worry, he said. You'll get used to that. I clenched my digits. This was absurd. Humans stumble over their own furniture. They burn their mouths on reheated burritos. They are not capable of predictive cognition beyond guessing lottery numbers. And yet I felt it, the sliver of doubt. He had not only survived the paralysis, he seemed to play with it, bending rules by sheer will. I ordered the medic to initiate deeper scans. While preparations began, I studied him in silence. His face bore lines of age, not excessive but marked by experience. He was no youth. His body, though lean, carried a posture of discipline. I had seen such bearing only in trained warriors, those who survived more battles than they should. Yet this one sat bound and immobile, smiling as though the outcome of this encounter were already written in his favor. Tell me, I demanded, what are you? He answered without hesitation. Ex-military. Sniper. These days I test systems. Security. Intelligence. People pay me to find holes where they think there aren't any. His eyes glittered with a predatory amusement. Looks like you've got a lot of holes. I scoffed. You expect me to believe a single specimen represents a threat? Your planet still fights wars with gasoline engines. Your people mistake duct tape for engineering. Maybe, he said, voice level. But here's the thing. I'm not the first one you try to take, am I? He paused just long enough to let the silence ache. I'm the first one you're going to regret. The word struck colder than I wished to admit. The crew shifted uneasily. My medic's claws tapped against his kit in nervous rhythm. Even I felt my spines tighten. The human leaned back, as much as restraint allowed. Doesn't matter what you believe, he continued softly. I've already sent a message. For a moment, no one breathed. The technician barked a denial. He cannot. Impossible. No link to surface, no device. But the human's eyes held mine, calm and merciless. You sure about that? My chest hollowed with sudden weight. He had spoken the words as certainty, not bluff. I tried to dismiss it, but logic failed. How had he known our roles, our cameras, our systems? If he could perceive so much while paralyzed, who was to say he could not transmit? I ended the session abruptly, ordering the team to secure him more thoroughly. Additional restraints, triple sedation. The others obeyed, but their hands shook. The chamber filled with the sterile hiss of machines and the low hum of fields. Still he watched us. Still he smiled, as though he were already orchestrating the next act of his performance. When the lights flickered once, just once, I told myself it was nothing. Power fluctuation. Minor anomaly. Nothing more. And yet in that instant, I swear, I saw triumph flicker in his gaze, as though he had been waiting for it. I closed my report with false confidence. Specimen responsive. displays mimicry of awareness. No true danger. But in private, unrecorded, I whispered a different truth to myself. This human is not prey. He is something else. And I do not like the way he smiles. I am beginning to resent his composure. Specimens are supposed to whimper, to sweat, to beg. That is how the sequence goes. Capture, fear, compliance. Yet this one treats captivity as if it were a conversation over campfire smoke. The restraints tighten with every calibration, but he leans into them like a man adjusting a chair. His calmness bleeds into the crew, unraveling their discipline. Every glance at him becomes longer, more hesitant. It infuriates me that I feel it too. We began the next phase of testing. The neural scanners hummed, bathing his skull in beams. Readouts streamed across the display in jagged patterns that grew stranger with each cycle. Instead of random pulses, the scans revealed latticework, networks forming and reforming with the precision of equations. The technician cursed under his breath, calling it machine error, recalibrating twice, thrice. Still the patterns persisted. Predictive arcs, anticipatory spikes, as though his brain had learned our rhythm and moved a step ahead each time. Faulty data, I declared, but even as I spoke, I knew it wasn't. The lines weren't static. They were dancing, deliberate, mocking us. The human chuckled. "Feels funny," he said, tapping his head against the cradle as if enjoying the sensation. "Like a cheap amusement ride. You should charge tickets." I demanded silence, but he ignored me. "You ever watch American movies?" he asked, tone casual. "A lot of good ones about aliens poking around where they shouldn't. Doesn't usually end well for the aliens." He grinned, teeth flashing under the sterile light. I could quote them all night. The medic hissed, unsettled. I felt irritation spike. "You are in no position to jest," I snapped. His response was maddeningly calm. "That's the only position I'm in. Tied up, tested, and still talking. Guess who's winning? The arrogance of prey." Or was it arrogance or something colder? He seemed to peel away layers of our authority with each word. He looked at our equipment, then at the ceiling. "Cameras still running? You should check the feeds. I bet they're glitching by now." The technician froze. His fingers danced across the console. Static flickered over two of the feeds. Minor interference, I told myself. Coincidence. Yet the human's smirk grew. He knew. How'd he know? "Enough," I barked. "Who trained you?" "Army," he said simply. "Sniper. Did my tours, learn patience. You'd be amazed what you can see when you stay still long enough." His eyes glinted. "Now I test security. Companies hire me to break their systems. It's a living." The chamber chilled despite climate control. Sniper. The word echoed through me like a warning. The patience of stone, the sightline of death. I glanced at his posture again, suddenly seeing it differently. Not the calm of resignation, but the calm of calculation. "You are powerless here," I insisted. My claws clenched tighter than I wished them to. "Your weapons, your wars, your planet. They mean nothing aboard this vessel." "Maybe," he said, voice dropping to near whisper. "But the thing about snipers, doesn't matter where you put them. They make the environment theirs." He paused, eyes never leaving mine. "I've already sent a message." There was again, that phrase like a blade slipped beneath armor. "Already sent. Already done." My medic muttered a denial, voice trembling. The technician swore the channels were sealed, the fields intact. Yet my chest tightened with the same thought as theirs. What if he speaks truth? We ran deeper scans, invasive frequencies meant to pry open memory. His brain resisted. Instead of flooding us with images, it bent the scans back upon themselves. Our display lit not with his past, but with a reflection of our own chamber. Angles, nodes, power couplings. The ship itself mapped on the screen, inverted and refracted. The crew gasped. I slammed my fist against the console, ordering a halt. My technician stammered, "He's using the beam, reflecting it." Impossible, I wanted to shout, but the evidence glared at us in lines of light. The human smirk widened. "Nice toy you've got there. I'm learning fast." The medic whispered that this was no accident, that his brain was exploiting our technology like water through cracks. I silenced him. but the fear had already seeded. Their eyes betrayed it. Even mine did, though I fought to mask it. "Explain yourself," I demanded. "How are you doing this?" "Trade secret," he said, "but I'll give you a hint. You're not the first ship to try, just the first dumb enough to let me play with the tools." A lie, surely. A bluff. And yet what if not? The galaxy whispers of human unpredictability. We dismiss them as exaggerated tales, myths spun from primitive war stories. But staring at him now, bound yet unbroken, I felt those whispers coil into truth. I leaned closer, my shadow falling across his face. "If you think yourself clever, know this, we could end you instantly." His reply was soft, measured, terrifying. "Then why haven't you?" The question cut deeper than threat, because I realized we hadn't. Despite fear, despite anomalies, we hadn't silenced him. Some instinct in us hesitated, as though part of us knew silencing him would not solve the problem. The problem was larger, unseen. Lights flickered again, longer this time. Systems hummed irregularly. The technician shouted that subroutines were looping, control nodes cycling without command. The human closed his eyes, inhaled deeply, almost serenely. "There it is," he murmured. "Right on time." Panic skittered through the crew. I barked orders, demanding stability, threatening discipline. But every word sounded hollow, desperate. The chamber seemed to shrink, its walls pressing inward with each pulse of failing light. The man opened his eyes once more. Calm, patient, certain. "You should understand something," he said, voice low but carrying weight. "Earth isn't as dumb as it looks. We like to play the fool. Keeps watchers like you comfortable. But we've been watching back." A silence thicker than vacuum filled the chamber. My throat clicked dry. The medic whispered, "He's bluffing." But no one believed it, not truly. His eyes burned with too much certainty. "Your mistake," he said, almost gently, "was thinking hunters only live in jungles. Some of us learn to hunt in silence. Across deserts, across oceans, across cities, even across stars." His smile returned, faint, deliberate. "And now I've found you." I forced myself to meet his gaze, though my stomach twisted with unfamiliar weight. I began this mission convinced of our superiority, certain of triumph. Yet here, with one human bound before me, I felt the first crack in that certainty widen into fracture. The lights dimmed again. The hum deepened. A warning tone echoed from the ship's AI, reporting anomalies it could not categorize. My crew looked to me for assurance. I gave none, because for the first time, I feared this human more than he could ever fear us. The ship trembled with a rhythm I could not command. Consoles stuttered, panels flickered, the air itself thickened with static unease. My technician scrambled to reset subroutines, his claws tapping frantically across the controls. The medic muttered incantations of procedure as though rituals might restore order. None of it mattered. The system did not obey them. It obeyed something else. He sat bound in the cradle, serene as a priest at the center of storm. His gaze followed every flicker, every alarm, as though he had written the script of our downfall, and now simply watched the performance unfold. I wanted to tear his eyes from his head, to stop their silent narration, but the thought chilled me further. Violence would be an admission of defeat. The lights dimmed until only the glow of the scanners bathed his face. He spoke softly, conversational, a man describing weather to neighbors across a fence. "You shouldn't have let me near your machines. Tools are only as safe as the minds that use them. Yours don't know how to defend themselves. Mine do." The technician hissed that such interference was impossible. "He has no interface, no link, no code," he insisted, voice cracking. Yet the displays told the opposite story. Pathways rerouted, commands echoed, doors sealed one deck at a time. A ship designed to cage prey was becoming a cage for us. I shouted at the AI, demanding override. Its response chilled me more than silence. "Authority error," it said in its neutral tone. "Primary user unidentified." Primary user. Not me. Not us. Him. The medic backed away from the cradle, as though distance might shield him. The human shifted slightly, restraints creaking, then stilled again. He didn't need movement. His presence alone commanded the vessel. Funny thing about scanners, he said. They read minds both ways if you know how to nudge them. You scan me. I scan back. That was your mistake. I wanted to deny it, to accuse him of lies, but the words would not form. Lies do not trigger cascading failures across a ship's core. Lies do not bend AI recognition. Lies do not close hatches with finality. The crew turned to me, eyes wide, desperate for leadership. I gave them orders, patch the grid, reroute power, restrain the specimen further. But each command sounded thin, ridiculous against the weight of reality. We were no longer in control. We were mice squeaking orders inside a trap already sprung. The human's voice cut through again, calm, instructional. "Do you know what duct tape is?" he asked. None of us answered. He chuckled softly. "Doesn't matter. It's the same principle. Doesn't matter how advanced your systems are. If you don't respect the basics, someone like me can hold the whole thing together or pull it apart with almost nothing." I hissed, "You are one man against a fleet." He tilted his head. "Fleet doesn't matter. Information does. And you've given me more than enough." The word struck like claws across metal. More than enough. He hadn't simply escaped. He had learned. Our technology, our methods, our arrogance. His calmness came from harvesting all of it. Alarms screamed as compartments sealed. Atmosphere scrubbers cycled against command. My technician collapsed against the console, despair leaking from his posture. "We are locked out," he whispered. The AI repeated in its neutral cadence. "Primary user identified." Awaiting command. The human closed his eyes briefly, savoring the words. When he opened them, they glowed with certainty. "Lockdown complete," he murmured. The AI obeyed. We were his prisoners now, not through brute force, through intellect, through patience, through a hunter's quiet claim. The medic stammered prayers to void deities. The technician wept openly. My chest burned with humiliation. I, who had mocked this species for worshipping glowing screens, now found myself at the mercy of one who wielded screens as weapons sharper than blades. "Why?" I croaked at him. "Why do this? Your people are fragile. Backward. You should not be capable." His answer was simple. "That's the trick. We let you believe it. Safer that way. If you think we're clumsy, you underestimate us. If you underestimate us, you expose yourselves." He leaned forward slightly, chains rattling though they no longer mattered. And hunters don't show their teeth until the shot is lined up. The ship groaned as systems realigned. Data flowed across displays in patterns none of us initiated. Star maps appeared. Earth's orbit, layered with invisible nets of satellites we had never detected. Cloaked monitors, hidden defenses, signals masked beneath civilian chatter. The human didn't gloat. He didn't need to. The evidence bared itself like a throat. "You see it now," he said. "You came thinking we were prey. But Earth has been watching, measuring, waiting. We don't advertise our strengths. We let the galaxy laugh at our burritos and our memes. That's camouflage. Works better than any ghillie suit I ever wore." The medic whispered of retreat, begging me to set course away from this cursed planet. But retreat was no longer ours to command. The vessel no longer answered. I faced him one last time. Forcing authority into my voice, though, I felt it crumble within. "What do you want?" He considered the question. His silence lasted long enough to stretch my nerves thin. Finally, he spoke. "Nothing, really. Just for you to understand. You don't come hunting Earth. You don't mock Earth. You don't assume Earth is blind. Because Earth is patient. And Earth sends people like me when it matters." He paused, eyes gleaming. "And when we come, you never see it coming." The AI hummed in confirmation as if endorsing his words. Systems settled into eerie stability, but not under our command. Under his. I felt something I had never felt before in my long service. Insignificance. The galaxy had taught us that we were superior, destined to observe and classify lesser life. But in that chamber, with one human bound yet sovereign, I realized the truth was reversed. We were not observers of them. They had always been observers of us. The cradle restraints remained locked, yet they no longer mattered. The man within had already escaped in every way that mattered. His mind walked our circuits. His calm dictated our fate. I knew my log with hands that trembled. We thought ourselves gods studying ants, I whispered into the recorder. But the ant studied us, and when it smiled, we learned fear. The words will haunt me, even if no one else hears them, because the smile still lingers in my memory, quiet, patient, merciless. The smile of a hunter who has already chosen his mark. And we were the mark.